Welcome back to the Ecom Dispensary, everybody. It's your boy Nate Schmidt. You already knew that, though. And your boy Scotty. You also already knew that. Episode number 158. A bit of a different episode. This is inspired by something I saw recently in my YouTube comments. I know I haven't made a YouTube video in quite some time, but I do occasionally still look through the comments just to see what people are saying. Honestly, sometimes I look through the comments just to
When
like
you
get.
need a boost to the ego.
That's actually the opposite of the topic of this episode. Is the things that brought the ego down. Now, actually, a lot of times I look through the comments to look for ideas for Ecom Dispensary episodes. Actually,
Gotcha. I think it's funny on YouTube, actually. I was reading through the comments of a pretty shitty video not so long ago, like a shitty make money online type video. And it's so positive about, I mean, the same comments that you get, Schmitty, and you probably tap yourself in the back thinking like you're quite the fucking guy, fucking greatest cowboy, savior of the people, man of the people. And then you see these fucking dipshits get all the same comments of like, oh, like I'm so glad I found your channel, like you're one of the real ones, like all this other stuff's bullshit. Like they get all the same comments. It's funny. YouTube comments, although they're like, we always said like YouTube comments are a negative place, but it's actually not true. It seems like it's an overwhelmingly positive place. Maybe I've just been exposed to Twitter too much, but yeah, YouTube
yeah,
comments overwhelmingly positive.
yeah, I would say so. I mean, at least on my videos, the comments are definitely overwhelmingly positive. Um, I'd say, I mean, in general, I'd say like for the most part, like that's kind of how it is. But that actually kind of segues somewhat nicely into this episode. This one's called "You'll Never Make Everyone Happy, So Don't Try." So basically, I was looking through the comments on one of my YouTube videos. I was kind of like reminiscing on my YouTube videos. I watched like 5 minutes of one of my videos that I made last year.
Uh,
Yeah, just listen to myself talk like a psychopath. Um, and I scrolled through the comments, and kind of like you were saying, 90% of them were very positive. But there was one thing in particular that stuck out to me. It was a video, and it had two comments. It was like almost back to back. It was hilarious how close they were. The first comment was saying that I talked way too fast and that he couldn't understand me and that I needed to slow down. And then like four comments down from that, there was a comment saying that he needed to put the video on 1.5x speed because I was talking too slow and he got bored. And I mean, it was just hilarious because they watched the same video. Nothing about the video was different for them. One guy's saying I'm talking way too fast. The other guy's saying I'm talking way too slow. And it just reminded me how impossible it is to please everyone. Like you literally can't. And those weren't like super negative comments. Obviously, it wasn't like someone was like trying to, come for my throat or anything. But
it has happened.
oh, I mean, it's not totally unheard of. That does happen out there. It does happen.
Crazy wild,
These YouTube
crazy
streets aren't
wild.
always the friendliest.
Gotta
Um,
learn jujitsu and have the AK handy.
the AK. I don't know if you need jujitsu if you got the AK.
Well, you know,
But that's what kind of inspired me to make this episode. I just kind of wanted to talk about like it's just funny that no matter what you do, you're never going to make everyone happy. It's impossible, man. Like I couldn't believe that it was the same video, two comments saying the exact opposite things, both criticizing, by the way, but just in different ways. And I think like a lot of people, they don't put themselves out there when it comes to something like this, like making a YouTube channel, making content on YouTube, and other social media platforms, running a business in general. It's honestly, I mean, doing that is just like kind of hard as is. It's tough to put yourself out there and just like make something and put it out into the world, and like it's I don't know, it's like intimidating, you know. Um, and it's just funny because you'll get 100 super positive comments, but then one negative comment will make you feel worse than those 100 positive comments made you feel good. Like, I don't know why that is, but the negative feedback can really weigh on you. And I think that discourages a lot of people from doing things that they would really like to do. You know, I'm sure some of you guys listening to this have had thoughts of starting your own thing of some sort. You know, with ecom, it's not as this, I don't know, this phenomenon isn't as common because with ecom, it's not, you're not really putting yourself out there personally. You know, no one really has to know who you are, and you can kind of like hide behind that, I guess. But when you're doing something that has your face attached to it, it's intimidating, man. It's intimidating, and you want to do things in a way that's going to please everyone. You know, you want to make the best content that you can that's going to make everyone happy, that it's going to make everyone love you. And I think you just have to realize that that is literally impossible. You cannot make everyone happy. And those people who are, you know, saying negative things on whatever it is that you're putting out there, like, it's inevitable. If you put something out there in the world, there are going to be people that have negative things to say about it. And you have to realize that I'd say a solid 90%, like maybe 10% of those people have like valid criticisms that you should actually take into account and that could actually improve your content. But 90% of the people who are saying negative shit, they're just miserable themselves, and they're projecting their own misery, their own insecurity, you know, all that stuff. They're projecting that onto you, and it really doesn't have anything to do with you or your content or the quality that you're putting out there. It's literally just them. Like, and I mean, that goes for so much besides just, you know, this one specific example. That goes for literally everything in life. And you got to ignore it, man. You can't make everyone happy. I think you really just got to make the content that you think is good and do your best and just ship it out there and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. I think there's generally a skill of reading reviews and sort of figuring out, when you're reading a review, you have to figure out who is the reviewer and does he have the same desires and views as I do? And is what he's saying in his review relevant to me? And this is like huge life skill. Fucking, I'm traveling around a lot, and I've got a lot of buddies that are traveling around, and they'll give a review of a place like, oh, hated this place, loved this place. But you have to figure out who is this person giving this review and what do they value, because oftentimes they don't explain why they loved it and or why they hated it. And it's like, I could tell you that I loved XYZ place in Mexico, but you'll go there and you hate it, and then I forget to mention that the reason I loved it is because the jiu-jitsu was great. If you don't train jiu-jitsu, you don't give a shit about that. Sort of on the flip side, you got guys that are just trying to go on like 5 Tinder dates a day, and that's what their life revolves around. And if they think a place is great or a place sucks, probably is largely due to how good the Tinder swiping is. And like, that's just not terribly relevant to my experience in a city. So like, you have to figure out who a reviewer is. Or perfect example, again, city I'm in right now, there's like a YouTube video reviewing the different jiu-jitsu gyms. And he liked all of them except the one that I ended up training at. And the reason he didn't like the one I ended up training at was he said it was too serious. Like, people were pretty intense and shit. And you can just kind of look at the guy and be like, okay, this guy wants to chill and probably rolls high and just wants to like flow roll and probably kind of a bitch.
Wait, when you say rolls high, do you mean like rolls like physically under the influence? Or is
yes,
that
I mean, high as a kite, Schmitty. Yes, you can do that. Jiu-jitsu might be for you after all.
I didn't know if that was a term that I wasn't getting.
No. You fucking get high and you roll.
Okay.
People do that.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's just like, you can look at this guy and he's probably not looking for the same atmosphere or the same gym or the same type of training that I am. So if he didn't like it, it might actually be the best place for me to train specifically for that reason. And it's just one of those things. Like, I was just reading those foam roller reviews for the prior episode. I saw one about how the foam roller's too hard, it hurts. I'm like, okay, like, I don't think you understand what the foam roller's supposed to do. Read another review that's like, it's better to get one with handles. Like, why is it better to get one with handles? Well, he says he's old and he can't actually, it's like, you have to be able to do a plank essentially to be able to use a foam roller. I'm like, wow, I've never thought of that. But I guess if you're 70 and trying to use a foam roller and you're not in good shape, then that is going to be a problem. But again, if you're not 70 and you are in decent shape, that's not going to be an issue. So you have to figure out, I guess there's a skill of figuring out where is this reviewer coming from. And yeah, you have to figure that out to see, is this actually relevant for you? And then when it comes to your own business, Schmitty was looking at it more from the perspective of a personal brand where they're criticizing you. And that can be very hard sort of mentally or personally, because they're coming after you, or at least that's the way you see it. With ecom though, I think people have the same issue where they get negative reviews in their product and they let that discourage them. They say this is a shit product. And a lot of the times it isn't really a shit product. It's like you have to think, you've made 1,000 sales and you've had 5 negative reviews. That's not bad. Like, you're always gonna have people that don't like it, and you're always gonna have people that love it. That's just the way the world works. And a lot of the times people,
to interrupt you there, there's also the aspect where the negative is so much louder than the positive. You sell 1,000 units, you could have 500 people who were absolutely ecstatically satisfied with their product, but they just didn't leave a review because, you know, are you going to leave a review if it's just positive? You know, maybe some people do, but you're much more likely to leave a review if your experience was negative. And that's just like kind of how that works, is the negative is just so much louder, even though it's much lower in like overall quantity. You just, you know, you don't always hear from the people who were satisfied, but you almost always hear from the people who were unsatisfied.
Yep. Go read the reviews for any budget airline. You're gonna find there's overwhelmingly shitty reviews. But I still fly EasyJet in Europe. Nothing wrong with EasyJet. Like, you get what you pay for. It's a good airline. They do what they're supposed to do. Like, but the only people that leave reviews are the ones that are stranded at the airport for 24 hours and have shitty customer support experience. So you, like, if you actually read the reviews for half the companies that you use, you'd probably never shop there again. But if you just go there and experience them, like, the product is fine, their service is fine. So
yeah,
just one of those things.
That's the reality of literally having any sort of business, selling any product. It's never going to be perfect, you know. Especially if you're operating at a decent level of scale, you're always going to have people leaving negative reviews. There's never going to be a world where you run the business in such a perfect way. Your product is perfect. Your customer service is perfect. Everything is perfect. Even if that is the case, you're still going to have people who are just miserable with their lives and are just looking for somewhere to take it out. And that's how it is. It's not necessarily like, you know, there's a bit of a skill there in being able to determine what's just a normal amount of negative feedback that kind of comes along with running a business versus like, okay, when is it so much that you actually have a problem? And that can, you know, sometimes that can be difficult to determine, but that's just kind of the reality of putting yourself out there, putting anything out there, creating, just generally speaking, creating something and putting it out into the world. You are going to get criticized for it. People are going to have negative things to say. And honestly, like, fuck them. Fuck them, man. That's the message of this episode.
Got to change the headline. Just fuck them.
Just fuck them. Yeah, I mean, and this even applies to like when you're first starting a business. This is why I'm always like so adamant about not telling anyone when you're pursuing some sort of online business. Like, a lot of you guys probably know that I didn't tell anyone. You know, I dropped out of college. I didn't tell my roommates. I didn't tell them, even my closest friends, man, which was like kind of tough because I wanted to tell them, and I felt like I was like almost betraying them a little bit by not telling them. But I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing because I knew that people were going to have negative things to say, because I'd kind of tested the waters a little bit and I'd kind of floated that idea out to some of my friends, some of my family members, and, you know, see what they had to say. And guess what? All of them, literally not a single one of them was like, yeah, Nate, it's a good idea for you to drop out of college to pursue online business. Everyone said that was a bad idea. Everyone said, Nate, you should finish school. You should get your degree, blah, blah, blah. And if I had listened to them, my life would be significantly worse, I reckon, than it is now. You're never going to make everyone happy. You got to do what's going to make you happy. You got to do what's going to, I mean, in the context of business, what's going to make you money. And I don't know, just don't pay so much attention and don't let these things get you down, because this is just like part and parcel with running a business, with putting yourself out there in really any manner. You're going to get criticized. And honestly, a lot of it is just unfounded bullshit.
Sometimes you get criticized because you're a dipshit too. That happens too.
How no? How do you know?
I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people that are dipshits and they make a lot of money. They don't really deliver on what they promise. And I think generally those people aren't sitting awake at night stressing about like people criticizing them. They just kind of write it off. So like the people that by default write off criticism, probably the ones that should take it slightly more to heart, and the people who get caught up in it probably need to not worry about it as much.
Probably need to chill the F out. Yeah, I would agree. It's just what happens, man. It's just what happens. You put yourself out there, you create something, people are going to have negative things to say. A lot of the times it has nothing to do with you. And you're just, you're never going to make everyone happy. So don't even try. Just do your best, man. I mean, honestly, the cliche advice, do your best, put your all into everything that you do and make it the best that you can be and put it out in the world and see what happens. And I don't know. Some parts of me think that you kind of have to be a bit of a psychopath to want to do this because it can be a lot, man. Like, especially when you're getting a lot of negative feedback. Like that's just kind of part and parcel with what we do. I don't really experience this a whole lot anymore because we don't really put out a whole lot of content besides what we put out here. And obviously, you guys who are listening to this, like, you guys aren't making weird, unfounded negative comments for the most part. But it's a lot. Like, it can be a lot mentally, and you kind of got to be prepared for it. So something that people don't really warn you about that when you get into business, but it's definitely something to be aware of.
Yep, 100%.
Word. Well, I think that'll do it for episode number 158, folks. You'll never make everyone happy, so don't try. We'll talk to y'all in the next one.